When we talk about martial arts movie legends, a few names instantly flash across the mind: Bruce Lee, Jet Li, Donnie Yen. But there's one man whose story is so layered, so intriguing, that the deeper you dig, the more incredible it becomes. His name? Vincent Zhao Wenzhuo. To many, he's the stoic warrior on screen, the embodiment of discipline and power. But behind the movies lies a man whose life is filled with twists, resilience, and untold truths that rival the scripts of the films he stars in. Buckle up, because today we're counting down the top 10 facts about Vincent Zhao Wenzhuo. And trust me, some of these will leave you stunned. You're 10. A martial arts prodigy from birth. Imagine being born in Harbin, a northern Chinese city where winters are brutal, the cold biting enough to freeze your breath mid-air, and yet producing one of the warmest sparks of martial arts talent the world has ever seen. That's Vincent Zhao's origin story. Born in 1972, Zhao wasn't just another kid running around the neighborhood. From the very beginning, his life was immersed in martial arts and not in the casual, after-school karate class way that many Americans experience. This was serious, disciplined, grueling training, the kind that molds children into champions. By the time most kids were worrying about their math homework, Zhao was already dedicating hours to perfecting forms, stances, and strikes. His natural talent was undeniable. Teachers and coaches quickly noticed something extraordinary. He had the reflexes, the mental toughness, and the sheer willpower that separated him from the rest. He didn't just practice martial arts, he lived it. His childhood was like the American stories of young athletes whose parents pushed them into sports, except in Zhao's case, he embraced it willingly. And it wasn't just about throwing punches or kicking high. Zhao immersed himself in Wushu, the traditional Chinese martial art that combines explosive athleticism with fluid, dance-like movement. Wushu is grueling. It requires acrobatics, endurance, flexibility, and strength. Think of it as a mix between gymnastics, boxing, and ballet, all rolled into one. It's an art form and a battlefield technique at the same time. Imagine an American kid being an all-state wrestler, a top-level gymnast, and a ballet dancer simultaneously. That's how demanding Wushu is, and that's the world Zhao mastered. By his teenage years, Zhao wasn't just competing, he was winning. He became a national champion multiple times, dominating categories in both barehanded forms and weapon forms. To give you perspective, that S like a high school basketball player not only winning state championships but also getting called up to train with NBA pros. His talent was so undeniable that he was on a trajectory not just to be a great martial artist, but a symbol of Chinese martial arts to the world. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. Martial arts wasn't just sport for him, it was destiny. Unlike kids in America who might dream of being an NFL quarterback or a Hollywood actor, Zhao was already charting a course to be a global representative of Wushu, and he achieved that. Before stepping into the film world, he was already a household name in martial arts circles. The discipline, the awards, the fame, all of it before Hollywood or Hong Kong ever came knocking. This early foundation explains why, when you see him on screen, his movements look so authentic, so precise, so sharp. He's not acting a martial artist, he is one. That authenticity has made him stand out in an industry where wirework and stunt doubles often mask the lack of real skill. With Zhao, what you see is what you get. Every kick, every spin, every jump, rooted in a lifetime of mastery. And yet, that's just the beginning. Because for all his success in Wushu, Zhao's path was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would put him in the same conversation as legends. Number 9. Handpicked as Jet Li's successor. Now think about this. In American sports, when a superstar retires, everyone looks around wondering who's next. Who's going to carry the torch after Michael Jordan, after Tom Brady, after Serena Williams? Well, in the world of martial arts cinema, the 90s faced a similar moment. Bruce Lee had long passed, Jackie Chan had established his own comedic action niche, and Jet Li was the reigning master of serious, heroic martial arts roles. But there was a looming question. Who would take up the mantle when Jet Li moved on? The answer, at least according to Hong Kong's film industry, was Vincent Zhao. And that's not just speculation. It actually happened. In 1993, Jet Li shocked fans by walking away from the wildly popular Once Upon a Time in China franchise, a series of films that redefined martial arts cinema and cemented his stardom. Suddenly, producers needed someone not only talented but believable enough to step into Jet Li's shoes as the legendary folk hero Wong Fei-hung. Enter Zhao Wenzhuo. At only 21 years old, he was chosen to replace Jet Li in Once Upon a Time in China 4. Let's pause on that for a moment. Imagine a rookie quarterback straight out of college being tapped to replace Tom Brady as the New England Patriots starter. That's the kind of pressure Zhao faced. He wasn't just starring in a movie, he was inheriting an icon. Fans were skeptical, critics were ready to pounce, and the comparisons were inevitable. But Zhao didn't just survive, he delivered. His portrayal of Wong Fei-hung brought a new dimension to the character. While Jet Li's version was calm, collected, and spiritual, Zhao's brought raw energy, youthful fire, and a touch of steel. He didn't try to mimic Jet Li. Instead, he stamped his own identity onto the role. For martial arts cinema, this was monumental. It was as if the industry officially passed the torch, signaling that Zhao was the future. Of course, the transition wasn't smooth. Fans loyal to Jet Li resisted the change. In America, we've seen similar scenarios. Think about how audiences reacted when Michael Keaton was replaced as Batman, or when Tom Holland took over as Spider-Man after Andrew Garfield. People love what they know, and change is hard. But Zhao had something that eventually won them over: authenticity. He wasn't an actor pretending to fight. His martial arts background gave him credibility that few others could match. And let's not forget, this was the Hong Kong film industry in the early 90s. A place where competition was brutal and careers could be made or broken in a single release. To survive as Jet Li's successor was no small feat. Zhao proved he wasn't just a placeholder, he was a force in his own right. This fact is often overlooked today, but think about the weight it carries. Being handpicked as Jet Li's successor meant Zhao was recognized as one of the most promising martial artists of his generation. It set the stage for everything that followed, from starring roles in action epics to becoming an international martial arts ambassador. It was a turning point, the moment his career shifted from national Wushu champion to global cinematic figure. Looker 8, from Wushu champion to accidental movie star. Some people spend their entire lives trying to break into the film industry. They take acting classes, audition for hundreds of roles, wait tables in Los Angeles or New York just to stay close to opportunity, and still, most never make it. For Vincent Zhao, the journey couldn't have been more different. He never dreamed of becoming a movie star. In fact, he was on track for something entirely different. After dominating the Wushu world with multiple championships, Zhao turned his focus toward education. He enrolled at the Beijing Sport University, one of the top institutions for athletes, and studied martial arts theory and practice. His plan was academic. He wanted to teach, coach, and contribute to the growth of martial arts as a discipline. He envisioned a life in classrooms and training halls, not on movie sets. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. During his time at the university, Hong Kong filmmakers were desperately searching for someone authentic, someone who could embody martial arts on screen with the precision and integrity of a real master. That search brought them to Beijing, where Zhao was spotted. His skill, combined with his tall frame, sharp features, and commanding presence, made him a perfect candidate for film. At first, Zhao resisted. He wasn't chasing stardom. He thought of himself as a martial artist and an academic, not an entertainer. But Hong Kong cinema at the time was booming, and the opportunity was too significant to ignore. Eventually, Zhao agreed, and in the early 90s, he made his screen debut. Here's where things get fascinating. Unlike many actors who rely on stunt doubles, Zhao's martial arts were so advanced that directors insisted he perform his own moves. This instantly set him apart. Watching him fight on screen wasn't like watching choreographed dance, it was like watching real combat artistry. Viewers could sense the difference. Every spin, every kick, every landing had weight. It was the equivalent of watching a former NFL player act in a football movie. You immediately believe it because they lived it. What makes this fact even more compelling is how accidental his fame was. Zhao wasn't hustling for roles. He wasn't living in cramped apartments waiting for a callback. Instead, cinema came knocking on his door because he was already exceptional at something else. This mirrors stories in America where professional athletes suddenly find themselves in movies. Think about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He was a wrestler before becoming Hollywood's highest-paid actor. Or even someone like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar showing up in Game of Death alongside Bruce Lee, not because he trained to be an actor, but because his presence was undeniable. Zhao's accidental movie career highlights an important truth. Sometimes, when you focus on being excellent at one thing, opportunities in completely different fields come to you. For Zhao, martial arts mastery opened a path to acting. It wasn't luck. It was preparation meeting opportunity, and once he stepped through that door, there was no turning back. Still, the irony remains. A man who thought he'd spend his life in gyms and classrooms ended up with his face on giant posters across Asia. That's not just a career twist, it's destiny. You're a 7. Carrying the spirit of Wong Fei-hung beyond the screen. Let S circle back to the role that put Zhao firmly on the cinematic map. Wong Fei-hung in the Once Upon a Time in China series. To understand why this was such a defining chapter, we need to dive into who Wong Fei-hung really was. Wong Fei-hung wasn't a fictional hero like Spider-Man or Captain America. He was a real historical figure, a martial artist and physician from late 19th century China who became a folk legend. Stories about his righteousness, bravery, and mastery of Hung Gar Kung Fu made him a symbol of Chinese pride and resistance during a time when the nation was struggling against foreign powers. By the 20th century, Wong Fei-hung had become almost mythic, like Paul Bunyan or Davy Crockett in the United States, except rooted in documented history. Now imagine the responsibility of portraying such a character on screen. It's one thing to play a comic book hero. It's another to embody a man millions of people see as a cultural icon. Jet Li did it brilliantly, but when Zhao stepped into the role, he wasn't just acting, he was carrying a cultural torch. What was as fascinating about Zhao's interpretation is how he leaned on his authentic martial arts background to ground the character. Wong Fei-hung wasn't just about fighting. He represented discipline, humility, and moral strength. Zhao's real-life training in Wushu gave him the poise and control to reflect that balance. When he stood tall, performed the shadowless kick, or wielded the staff, audiences felt the weight of tradition. He wasn't imitating, he was channeling. And the influence of that role went beyond cinema. For many young fans in the 90s, Zhao's Wong Fei-hung was their introduction to Chinese culture, martial arts philosophy, and ideas of honor and resistance. In the same way American kids idolized superheroes, kids across Asia watched Zhao on screen and wanted to learn martial arts, to stand up for justice, to embody integrity. That's impact, but there's more. Off-screen, Zhao embraced the responsibility. Unlike some actors who walk away from iconic roles, Zhao leaned into Wong Fei-hung's legacy. He continued to promote martial arts, discipline, and cultural pride through interviews, public appearances, and later projects. He wasn't just cashing checks, he was building on the mythology. Think about how Christopher Reeve, who played Superman, carried the image of hope even outside the movies, or how Chadwick Boseman became a symbol of Black Panther's strength in real life. Zhao's connection to Wong Fei-hung had a similar dimension. He became, in many people's eyes, a living embodiment of the values the character represented. Of course, the pressure was immense. Being the new Wong Fei-hung came with endless comparisons to Jet Li. But Zhao managed to carve his own identity. Jet Li's Wong was wise and calm. Zhao's was fierce, passionate, and youthful. Both interpretations enriched the legacy. In hindsight, this was one of the most important roles in Zhao's career. It elevated him from being just another martial artist in movies to a cultural icon. And it proved something crucial. Vincent Zhao wasn't just a replacement. He was a worthy successor, a man capable of carrying a nation's folk hero into the hearts of a new generation. Verse 6. A scholar with brains behind the brawn. When you think of martial arts stars, the stereotype often paints them as purely physical performers, strong, athletic, and charismatic, but maybe not scholarly. Vincent Zhao breaks that mold entirely. While his body was mastering acrobatics, forms, and strikes, his mind was equally sharp. This is a man who never abandoned education, even when fame and fortune came knocking. After his early martial arts dominance, Zhao enrolled in Beijing Sport University, not just to hone his athletic abilities but to dive into the academic side of martial arts. He majored in martial arts theory, focusing on biomechanics, sports science, and the philosophy behind physical training. This was no tea about learning how to throw a prettier punch. It was about understanding how the human body works, how training methods shape performance, and how centuries of martial tradition could be passed on systematically. It's easy to underestimate how important this is. Imagine if LeBron James, after dominating basketball, also became a professor teaching kinesiology and the science of athletic performance. That's the kind of dual path Zhao was on. He wasn't satisfied with just being good. He wanted to understand why martial arts worked the way they did, and how to improve them for future generations. This academic pursuit shaped his worldview. It made him disciplined not just in training, but in thought, and it gave him an advantage on screen. While other actors might only memorize fight choreography, Zhao approached each role with deep awareness of how movements could be executed more efficiently, more powerfully, and more beautifully. His knowledge of body mechanics meant he didn't just perform moves, he perfected them. There's also something deeply cultural about this. In China, martial arts isn't just about fighting. It's about philosophy, tradition, and mental discipline. By studying the academic side, Zhao anchored himself to the roots of martial arts in a way that many of his contemporaries didn't true tea. That's why when you watch him fight in films, there's a certain authenticity, a sense that every gesture is grounded in centuries of practice and thought. And here's where the American comparison helps put things in perspective. Think about Bruce Lee. He wasn't just a martial artist, he was a philosopher who wrote about combat as a way of life. Vincent Zhao, in his own way, followed a similar path. He wasn't content with physical mastery alone, he sought intellectual mastery too. That combination of brain and brawn is rare, and it's one of the key reasons he stands out among martial arts stars. So, while audiences may admire his stunning high kicks and weapon work, behind the scenes, Zhao was also the academic who could write, teach, and lecture about the deeper meaning of martial arts. That dual identity, scholar and warrior, makes him a modern-day Renaissance man of martial arts. Number 5. The reluctant star who walked away from fame. Now, here's where the story takes a turn most fans don't expect. In an industry obsessed with fame, power, and money, most actors would give anything to climb higher, land bigger roles, and stay in the spotlight. But Vincent Zhao is different. At the height of his career, when the offers were flowing and his star power was undeniable, he did something shocking. He walked away. Let's rewind to the mid to late 90s. Zhao had already proven himself as Jet Li's successor, carried the Wong Fei-hung mantle, and earned starring roles in major martial arts productions. He was on the fast track to becoming one of Hong Kong cinema's top stars. The machine was ready to push him into superstardom. But Zhao wasn't interested in being just another cog in the entertainment industry. Reports from that era highlight his frustration with the way the Hong Kong film business operated. Scripts were rushed, productions were chaotic, and artistic integrity often took a back seat to box office quick hits. For someone as disciplined and thoughtful as Zhao, this was unacceptable. He wanted roles with meaning, with substance. He wasn't content to be typecast as a one-dimensional fighter who appeared on screen, threw punches, and disappeared. So, rather than compromise his values, Zhao did the unthinkable. He left the Hong Kong film industry and returned to mainland China. Think about that for a moment. It is like a rising Hollywood actor suddenly quitting blockbusters to go back home and teach theater in a small town. To outsiders, it looked like career suicide. To Zhao, it was reclaiming control. During this period, Zhao focused on personal growth, family, and contributing to the development of martial arts culture back home. He also pursued projects that aligned more closely with his values. While the move cost him some international momentum, it solidified his reputation as a man of principle. He wasn't chasing quick fame. He was building a legacy on his own terms. This decision reflects something profound about his character. Fame didn't control him, discipline did. Money didn't dictate his path. Values did. In a way, this makes Zhao even more admirable. In America, we often praise athletes or celebrities who retire at their peak because they refuse to compromise their integrity. Think Barry Sanders walking away from the NFL in his prime, or Dave Chappelle stepping away from a $100 million comedy deal because he didn't like the direction it was going. Zhao belongs to that rare breed. And here's the kicker. His career didn't die because of this choice. In fact, stepping away gave him longevity. He wasn't burned out or overexposed. When he later returned to film, audiences welcomed him with open arms. They respected that he had stood for something greater than money or fame. His image became that of a principled artist, not just another actor in the machine. This fact is crucial in understanding Vincent Zhao. He's not your typical star chasing headlines. He's a man who knows what he stands for, and isn't afraid to walk away from glitter if it doesn't align with his values. That kind of integrity is rare in entertainment, and it's one of the reasons his story resonates far beyond the screen. Yor, a versatile actor who refused to be boxed in. For many martial arts stars, their careers live and die by the same formula. Play the stoic fighter, repeat fight scenes with bigger stunts, and eventually fade when audiences want something new. But Vincent Zhao has consistently refused to let himself be boxed in. Instead of sticking to one-dimensional martial arts roles, he pushed to diversify his acting portfolio, even when it came at a cost. In the Hong Kong and mainland Chinese film industries of the 90s and early 2000s, martial arts actors often struggled to break stereotypes. If you were known for kicking and punching, directors rarely trusted you with drama or romance. Zhao saw that limitation and challenged it. He deliberately chose roles outside the traditional martial arts hero archetype. He wanted to prove he could act, not just fight. Take, for example, his work in films and television dramas where martial arts wasn't the central theme. Zhao explored historical dramas, contemporary roles, and even complex characters who weren't fighters at all. This was a bold move. Imagine if someone like Mike Tyson, known worldwide for his fists, transitioned into serious acting roles without throwing a single punch. That's the level of risk Zhao embraced. Of course, some critics didn't understand. They wanted Zhao to keep churning out high-octane action films, but he resisted. He valued growth more than predictability, and in the long run, this decision paid off. By refusing to be pigeonholed, Zhao extended his career far beyond the short shelf life that many action stars face. American audiences can draw a parallel here with someone like Dwayne Johnson. At first, The Rock was all about wrestling-style action roles, but he deliberately branched out into comedies, family movies, and eventually serious action dramas. That willingness to diversify turned him into a long-lasting superstar. Zhao made a similar gamble, except in a far tougher environment where martial arts actors were rarely taken seriously outside their niche. What makes Zhao's choice even more impressive is that he didn't have Hollywood's massive marketing machine behind him. Every step was uphill. He had to fight industry bias, audience expectations, and his own reputation. And yet, he succeeded in building a career with layers. Today, when you look back at his filmography, you don't just see the guy who replaced Jet Li. You see a complete actor who dared to grow. This fact reveals something crucial. Vincent Zhao is not defined by martial arts alone. He's defined by his courage to evolve, his refusal to play the same role over and over, and his determination to carve out a career on his own terms. That's rare in any entertainment industry, and it's part of why his story remains so compelling. Number 3. Returning to the spotlight and proving his legacy. Here's the truth about the entertainment world. It's unforgiving. Step away for too long, and people forget you. Trends change, new stars rise, and audiences move on. That is why Zhao's comeback story is one of the most impressive chapters in his career. After years of stepping back from Hong Kong cinema, he returned to the spotlight, and instead of being forgotten, he reminded everyone why he mattered. The early 2000s were a tough time for many martial arts stars. The golden era of Hong Kong action cinema was fading. Hollywood was dominating global box offices, and younger audiences were gravitating toward new types of heroes. For Zhao, making a comeback wasn't just about landing roles. It was about proving he still belonged in the conversation. And he did exactly that. His return wasn't timid, it was bold. He took on major projects like True Legend, 2010, where he played the role of Su Can, a legendary martial arts figure often associated with the drunken boxing style. The film showcased not only his incredible physical skills but also his emotional depth as an actor. It was proof that he could still headline a big martial arts epic and deliver a performance that resonated. True Legend is especially important because it bridged the gap between old-school martial arts cinema and modern filmmaking. With its high production values and complex choreography, it reminded audiences of the glory days while pushing the genre forward. Zhao's performance was central to that balance. Watching him, fans felt the authenticity of a real martial artist, but also the maturity of an actor who had lived, struggled, and returned stronger. And his comeback didn't stop there. Zhao also re-entered television, starring in historical and action dramas that reached millions of households. In China, TV dramas are cultural phenomena, often drawing bigger audiences than films. Zhao's presence on the small screen kept his image alive for a new generation of fans who might not have grown up during his original rise. For American viewers, the best comparison might be Robert Downey Jr. Think about how Downey's career was nearly derailed, only for him to come roaring back as Iron Man, proving not just his talent but his resilience. Zhao's return had a similar feel. He wasn't just surviving. He was redefining himself for a new era. What makes this fact especially inspiring is that it highlights Zhao's perseverance. He didn't let setbacks define him. He didn't let the industry push him into oblivion. Instead, he fought back, re-established his career, and secured his place as one of martial arts cinema's lasting figures. This is what separates legends from footnotes. Many martial arts stars burned bright and faded away. Zhao endured. His comeback proved that while fame can be fleeting, authenticity and resilience never go out of style. Number 2. A family man who values privacy over fame. In an era where celebrities constantly post their personal lives online, flaunting luxury cars, private jets, and family photos for likes and clicks, Vincent Zhao stands apart. Despite his fame, he has always been a deeply private person, especially when it comes to family. For Zhao, home is sacred. He has openly stated in interviews that being a good husband and father matters more to him than being a movie star. He is married to Zhang Danlu, and together they have children who, by Zhao's choice, are largely shielded from the public eye. You won't see his family splashed across tabloid covers or used as marketing props. Instead, he works hard to keep that part of his life grounded and away from the frenzy of show business. Why is this important? Because it reveals his priorities. While many actors chase endless fame, Zhao chooses balance. He understands that the entertainment world is fleeting, but family is permanent. And this commitment has shaped many of his career decisions. There were times he turned down roles or stepped back from projects simply because he didn't want to sacrifice time with his loved ones. For American audiences, this mirrors the choices of stars like Keanu Reeves, who is famously private and values authenticity over Hollywood flash. Or even someone like Dave Chappelle, who walked away from a huge deal to protect his peace of mind. Zhao belongs to this rare breed of artists who know that family and values come first, even if it costs them money or media attention. Fans often forget that martial arts heroes on screen are still human off-screen. Zhao embodies that reminder. Behind the high kicks, sword fights, and stoic stares is a man who prioritizes being a father and husband. In a way, that makes him even more heroic, because it's easy to play a hero in a movie, but being a hero in real life, for your family, takes real discipline. Shaquan, a martial arts legend whose legacy bridges generations. Finally, we come to the #1 fact about Vincent Zhao Wenzhuo. His lasting legacy as a martial arts legend who bridges generations. When you look at his career, it's tempting to define him by specific roles. Wong Fei-hung, Su Chan in True Legend, or his countless Wushu victories. But his real achievement goes beyond awards or films. His legacy lies in how he connects the past, present, and future of martial arts. Think about it. Zhao began as a child prodigy, inheriting centuries-old traditions of Chinese Wushu. He carried that into the 90s, when martial arts cinema was at its peak, and helped continue the lineage after Jet Li. Then, by refusing to be boxed in, he proved martial artists could also be versatile actors. Later, through his comeback, he reintroduced martial arts cinema to a new generation, ensuring that the tradition didn't fade away. This bridging role is crucial. Without figures like Zhao, martial arts cinema might have become just a nostalgic memory of the 80s and 90s. Instead, it continues to thrive, evolving while still anchored in authenticity. Zhao represents continuity, the assurance that martial arts, as both sport and art, won't be lost to time. But his legacy also goes beyond China. Through international releases, film festivals, and global fans, Zhao helped showcase authentic Wushu to audiences worldwide. For American viewers used to wire fu or heavily edited fight scenes, Zhao's authenticity was refreshing. He proved that martial arts cinema didn't need to rely on CGI or over-the-top effects. It could still dazzle with pure skill. And let's not forget the inspiration factor. Countless young martial artists cite Zhao as their reason for picking up Wushu or Kung Fu. Just as Bruce Lee inspired a generation in the 70s, Zhao carried that torch into the 90s and beyond. His influence can be seen in dojos, gyms, and martial arts schools around the world. Ultimately, Zhao's story is about discipline, resilience, and authenticity. He didn't just chase fame, he lived by principles. He didn't just play heroes, he embodied them. And that's why, decades from now, people will still talk about Vincent Zhao in the same breath as Bruce Lee, Jet Li, and Jackie Chan. So, there you have it. The top 10 facts about Vincent Zhao Wenzhuo. From child prodigy to national Wushu champion, from being handpicked as Jet Li's successor to walking away from fame on his own terms, from carrying the torch of Wong Fei-hung to proving his versatility as an actor, Zhao's story is nothing short of incredible. He's a man who blends brains and brawn, family and fame, tradition and modernity. What makes him so compelling is that his life feels like one of his movies, filled with unexpected twists, challenges, and triumphs. But unlike the scripted battles on screen, Zhao's real-life victories come from discipline, values, and integrity. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Vincent Zhao's fascinating life, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Share this video with your friends who love martial arts or Chinese cinema, because chances are they'll discover something new here too. And, of course, subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss our next exploration into the lives of legendary figures. Your support keeps this channel alive, and together, we'll keep uncovering the untold stories that deserve to be remembered.